In the Middle Jurassic, one of the most famous dinosaur families are making their debut. The first stegosaurs are spreading across the globe, and in China is one of the most basal, Huayangosaurus. At 4 meters long and 500 kilograms, they are smaller than their huge descendants, but their fearsome tail spines and jagged backplates have forced many predators to adapt to these new and well-armed herbivores. Of course, they are most vulnerable when they are young, and so when Huayangosaurus hatch, they first try and find any adults seeking their protection till their spines and plates grow in. One such herd is currently grazing in the forest. Made up of 30 adults and 70 youngsters of different ages, they feed on low-lying plants and rely on the oldest individuals to lead them to their next meal. A sudden shrill squeal makes all the Huayangosaurus lift their heads and scan the area in alarm. The herd is in a dense patch of ferns that is tall enough to obscure the smaller members of the herd. As they look around, they are already too late, as the sound of one youngster is carried away into the forest by an unseen predator. The rustle of leaves, the only indication of a retreat. This type of attack has been happening to the group for weeks now, and every couple of days. A predator is stalking them, and is so stealthy, none of the adults have even seen what it was, and it always targeted the youngest of them. Only the eldest female seems to be taking action. As the attacks have continued, she has led the herd closer and closer to the more open areas, to a place where the small predator will have less cover. However, the herd constantly needs to feed, so the journey has been slow. Finally, they have reached the far less dense part of the forest, with lower plants, and more importantly, the female has brought the herd towards a different species of dinosaur. Standing tall above the stegosaurs and weighing 4 tons, these Huayangosaurus feed from the tops of trees and are harmless neighbors, as long as they don't step on you. But the Huayangosaurus did not seek them out for protection, but to take advantage of their height. Because of their long necks, the Huayangosaurus have an excellent view of the forest, and are constantly scanning for predators, giving reassuring calls when all is clear, and deep rumbles when they sense a threat. It is all these extra eyes the female Huayangosaurus is counting on in order to finally flush out the stealthy predator. A few days pass, and the Huayangosaurus stay close to the long sauropods, but no warning calls are given, and the female wonders if the mere presence of the Huayangosaurus has scared off the predator. Then comes a low rumble from one of the giants, and the old Huayangosaurus responds in kind. She lets out a distress call, and the entire herd goes on alert. The adults begin to scan the forest around them, and the young move to the adults for protection. The old female listens for the attacker, and picks out the sound of the predator's footsteps out from the sounds of the juvenile Huayangosaurus, and moves towards the source. There, gliding through the shrubs, there was some kind of theropod, and it was moving towards the retreating youngsters, but the Huayangosaurus was now heading towards the still hidden predator. Finally, it revealed itself. A young Gasosaurus, its eyes fixed on the nearest tiny Huayangosaurus. It opened its jaws ready to bite down on its victim, but didn't see the bounding adult charging towards him. The female twisted her body, sliding across the ground, and as she spun around her tail, aiming the sharp spines at the Gasosaurus, the tail impacted the hunter's side with such force, the small carnivore was sent cascading through the air before impacting the ground and briefly sliding before coming to a halt. He did not get up. The Stegosaur's spine had pierced his body and killed him. The female Huayangosaurus examined the body, making sure the Gasosaurus was indeed dead, and then issued a calming call to the herd. The rest of the Huayangosaurus calmed down and went back to grazing, while the Huayangosaurus had barely taken notice. The threat had been eliminated. Just as predators were adapting to hunt new prey, the prey was adapting to defeat their predators. Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we will be breaking down one of the most basal of all stegosaurs, Huayangosaurus. Huayangosaurus was first discovered in 1979 in the Qingmao Formation in China, and was named after a famous Chinese poet. It lived in the Middle Jurassic 165 million years ago. and is one of the earliest known stegosaurs, being 40 million years older than Stegosaurus itself. It grew to 4.5 meters long, 1.5 meters tall at the hip, and weighed up to 500 kilograms, making it one of the smallest stegosaurs. You'll often hear that Huayangosaurus is one of the most basal species of stegosaurs. This is not just due to its age, but also its anatomy. At first glance, it appears quite standard. A quadrupedal herbivore with a small head, thick body, back plates, and 4 thagomizers. But on closer inspection, we see some features that make it stick out. Most stegosaurs have quite narrow skulls, while Huayangosaurus's is more wide and broad, and though it does have a beak, it also has premaxillar teeth, a feature all later members of its family would lose, but may mean that Huayangosaurus was not as selective a feeder as later species. Huayangosaurus's forelegs are almost the same length as its hind legs, unlike most stegosaurs that have longer hind legs. This may have given it slightly better access to plants to date, but also could mean it was a better runner than younger stegosaurs. One study even suggested that Huayangosaurus, though quadrupedal most of the time, may have been able to run on its hind legs when it needed to. This is only a theory, however, and has no direct evidence. It had 2 rows of backplates that ran along its neck, back, and tail, with them getting larger and sharper towards the hips, with the largest pair being directly over the hips. The plates in general are a lot more spike-like when compared to other members of its family, like Stegosaurus, and puts into doubt the theory that they evolved as temperature regulators. In Huayangosaurus at least, they appear to be more for defense against predators, or for display, possibly being able to flush blood across the plates to change their color. On the end of its tail, it had 2 pairs of long spines known as thagomizers, used to stab attackers. We also know that Huayangosaurus had some osteoderms or armor that ran along its flanks, from the shoulders to the hips, that would have provided extra protection. Now, there is even a report that Huayangosaurus had, in addition to its tail thagomizers, a very small club on the tip of its tail, made of 3 fused vertebrae. Not a very useful club, but an interesting find nonetheless. So what about the shoulder spines? Well, here's the thing. Shoulder spines have only been confirmed in one other species, that being Kentrosaurus from Tanzania, and have only been suggested for many other species of stegosaur, including Huayangosaurus. So, either give Huayangosaurus shoulder spines or don't, it really doesn't appear anyone knows for sure. So, Huayangosaurus, a species that gives us a great look at where stegosaurs came from, and how they evolved over millions of years. But what do you think of Huayangosaurus? What lesser known dinosaur would you like me to do a breakdown on next? And until then, please like, share, subscribe, and thank you for watching.